Hello and welcome to our webinar about online recruiting on Facebook and Instagram. First of all, I'm going to share my screen and see if everything's working. Let's see. There you go. So normally you should see now the slides, online webinar recruiting on Facebook and Instagram. First of all, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Stephanie and I'm the marketing lead at Simple. And normally I would say next to me stands Mark, one of the founders of Simple. But we're doing it now on remote. It's the first time. So be privileged to be in the audience today.
If everything works, you're privileged.
Yes.
If nothing works, you're doomed.
Fingers crossed.
Can you just maybe put in the chat whether you can hear both of us when we talk?
Yes.
So just ping in the chat when we hear both of you. That would be reassuring.
Yes, indeed.
All right, cool. Good.
So
let's go, Steph.
Sorry?
Let's go ahead, Steph.
Yes. On the right hand, you can see the chat, obviously, and you can ask questions during the webinar. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask them, to interrupt me. Just put them in the chat and we'll try to respond to them immediately. We're also going to launch some polls during the webinar. You can find them also on the right of your screen to make it a bit more interactive. All right. Now, what is on the agenda for today? Well, first of all, why you should recruit on Facebook. That's why we're here, of course. What should you pay attention to when preparing? How do you set up a campaign? And how do you measure results? Because, of course, we're talking about paid advertising on Facebook and Instagram. So, of course, you want to have the best results for your money. What is not on the agenda today, that is free and organic recruiting. We're talking about paid recruitment campaigns on social media. Data-driven recruitment, we've done a webinar about that already. You can find them on our website. And then what is a great working ad? We're going to do one of those webinars in the next couple of weeks. All right. Now, what do we do at Simple? Well, we provide qualified candidates for our clients. And how do we do this? We focus on passive candidates. I will explain this a bit later. We do this through targeted advertising on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and also a bit of LinkedIn. And we do this in a user-friendly process. Now, why should you believe us? Here you have some proven results of us. We've done over more than 6,000 recruitment campaigns for all different profiles, and we've done them all on Facebook and Instagram. Here you can find some of our clients as well. But let's start with the webinar because that's why we're here.
And Steph, if I can just interrupt there,
yes.
Can I reiterate, please, people ask questions because that's the only role I have today, is to be here to answer any kind of questions. If I don't have enough questions, then I will start interrupting Steph, and that's going to bother her. So please help out everybody by asking me a lot of questions so we can make this as interactive as possible.
Yes, please. Yes, please. All right. Now, first of all, maybe we're going to launch a first poll to see, I want to know if the audience already has done paid recruitment campaigns on Facebook and Instagram. If we're talking about Facebook, then it's also Instagram, then it's also Messenger, and then it's also the audience network of Facebook, audience network, our applications and our websites from Facebook itself, where you can also put advertising on. But these are all the platforms to set up in Facebook Ads Manager to do paid recruitment campaigns. So let's see what the poll says.
Okay, Steph, so it's interesting. It's a good mix. We have about 55% of people who have never done paid recruitment and 43 who have. Mm-hmm. So I think we have something for all of those people because we'll stay top line today, but we'll also share some of our inside secrets on objectives and targeting as we go along. So stay tuned. Yes. And again, because some people are answering in the chat, the polls, it's better and indeed seen. It's very meta now. The polls should be answered on the poll on the right. Good. Over to you, Steph.
All right. Now, why should you start recruiting on Facebook and Instagram if you're not already doing this? Well, 20% of the working population is actively looking for a job. They're looking on LinkedIn, they're looking on Google, they're looking on job boards, they're actively looking to find the right vacancy for them. But 80% of the population is not actively looking for a job, and you have to reach them where they are every single day. And where are they every single day? Well, on Facebook and Instagram. If you know that on average a person scrolls 160 meters a day on Facebook and Instagram, that's a lot. And there you have to pop out with your vacancy to convince also the passive job seekers. All right. Before you can actually set up your campaign on Facebook itself.
Sorry, can I just interrupt? Because I know you don't see the question, so I will just, there's a question from Sean Chu on what do we mean by population, world population. I'll answer this one. So the previous slide was exactly, this is about all employees. So it's the employee, the current employees. So of everybody who's actually currently either looking for a job or doing a job, 20% of them are actively looking for another job, and 80% are not actively looking. So it's the population here that we're talking about is actually employees, and it is worldwide. It's based on research from, amongst others, based on research from 2016 by LinkedIn. Good, back to you, Steph.
All right. So before you can actually start setting up your campaign, there are some marketing basics that you need to know. And the first one is you have to have a clear picture of your funnel. And what is a funnel? It's actually a visualization of all the steps that a person takes. On the right hand, you see the recruitment funnel. First of all, you have an application, of course. Then you have the selection process, which is different in every company. It can be different steps, different job interviews, etc. And then hopefully you come to hire. But before the recruitment funnel, you also have the marketing funnel. And this is, of course, important when you start doing advertising on Facebook and Instagram. In the marketing funnel, you also have different steps. The first one is the discover phase. In the discover phase, you will show something really general for your audience. For example, if you're looking for an account manager, then you're going to write a blog or an infographic about subjects that are interesting for an account manager, but you're not going to show your vacancy, your specific vacancy yet. In the engage phase, you will narrow your audience a bit more to see who is actually looking for a job. So you can write some posts or you can write some blogs about looking for a new opportunity. Are you working in construction? If you're looking for someone in construction, of course, but you're not going to show the specific vacancy advertising yet. This you will do in the attract phase. In the attract phase, you will show the specific vacancy for your company in a specific region, etc. So it is important to know what are the steps that a person takes to come to an application on your website. And it's important to have an idea of this because, of course, like I already said, you're spending money on it. So you want the best results and you want to know also where it goes wrong. If you have lots of visits on your website, but not enough applications, then you have to dive into that one to optimize, to have more applications, of course. Then we have to prepare the campaign itself. And there are some things that you need to think about before you dive into Facebook Ads Manager. The first one, and this is a really important one, is you have to define your target audience. What we recommend is to think about it before you dive into Facebook Ads Manager, like I already said. Think about what are the requirements that the person needs to have, what are the skills, where does he has to live, etc., etc. And then you can dive into Facebook Ads Manager and what are the options to select over there, because there are lots of them. The first one is the location. This is I think the most easiest one, you have to think about where does the person have to live. If you select a location, then you can select also a radius around it. And we recommend to think about 20 kilometers around your company, so the person can easily get to their work, of course. The second option that you can select in Facebook Ads Manager are interests. Facebook has gathered lots of interests of all the people that have a Facebook profile. It is important to know that these are not only interests of the pages that they like on Facebook or Instagram, but also on the internet as a whole. Which website do they visit, where do they click on, etc. These are all gathered in generic interests. For example, if you're looking for a digital marketeer, then you can choose the interest digital marketing. And then Facebook will give you also some suggestions like, okay, if someone likes digital marketing, then he might also like Facebook advertising, Google advertising, etc. There are lots of interests, so please think about it beforehand, about the interest before you select all the interests in Facebook. And then the most important one is data. The more data you gather, the more easy it will be to define your target audience. We've done already over 6,000 recruitment campaigns, so we have a lot of data of all different profiles. But this is an important one because Facebook loves data, and if you already have done Facebook campaigns in the past, then you can use that data to run current campaigns. And the cost will also be less if you already have done some recruitment campaigns and if you already have gathered data from the past. All right, now in Facebook Ads Manager, you can't select, okay, I'm looking for an account manager with 3 or 5 years of experience. But what we've done at Simple, we have gathered lots of data, like I already said, and you can easily select those things in our software. Mark, maybe let's go over to you to show the audience all the...
I almost forgot it was time for me to talk. That's the difficulty of not being in the same room. Okay, maybe just a bit of background before we go here. Let me just reiterate that if one of the things we want you to take away from this webinar today is that start today with gathering data. This is really, really very important. Even if you only have plans for 2022 to do your recruitment, start gathering data today. I will explain you later in the webinar how you can do that. Because the more data you have and the more data you own, right, the better it's going to be. You probably heard about iOS 14.5 and the privacy issues. Again, the more data you own, the quicker you can do that, the better it is. And you can see the result here. If, like us, you have gathered lots of data, maybe if you can click, let's just assume you're looking for a barista in New York, you could actually start using data sets of previous campaigns, of previous vacancies, like, for instance, hospitality vacancies. And you can start looking for similar people based on that data set. So either, there's 2 options. Either you can start collecting data and also do that in a proper way, that you actually collect and aggregate that in a structured way, or just an idea, you might also use our software for doing that. But the goal is that the key message here is start collecting data as quickly as possible. Good. Just I'll answer one question because there's just a question coming in. Where can I watch the recording? I'll also first pass the webinar. Well, Pietro, there are no recordings yet because this is live, right? So unfortunately, it's not possible to kind of fast forward yet. But once the webinar is finished, you'll get a link onto your screen, which actually allows you to watch the recording again. Good. Back to you, Steph, for the rest of the presentation.
Right, so once you've defined your target audience, we recommend to do some research about the competition. And this is a really important one. We're not talking about the competition of your company. Facebook is a bidding platform, and you're bidding against the competition that also wants to reach the same audience that you want to reach. So you have to have a look, what is a competition doing that wants to reach the same audience as me? And what we recommend is to have a look at Facebook Ads Library. Mark will send you the link in the chat, and I will go live to Facebook Ads Library. Let's see, there you go. So here you can search for any company and you will see all the ads that they are running right now. So maybe put some companies in the chat so we can search them and so we can prove that we are doing the webinar live. Mark, I can't hear you anymore.
Sorry, Randstad, Steph, there's a question
Okay.
to try Randstad.
Yes, all right.
We have lots of...
Randstad Belgium. So here you can see how many likes they have on Facebook, how many likes they have on Instagram, but what is most important, you can also see all the ads that they are running. You can see the copy that they've written, you can see the videos that they've made, you can see on which platforms they are doing ads. So it can give you some inspiration. These are recruitment advertisements as well. Randstad is also a recruitment agency. Let's do maybe one more.
That's Deutsche Bank, but that will test your German writing skills, Steph.
These are not really good, but I can
Deutsche Bank, there you go.
All right, so here you can see all the ads that they are running. Like you can see the call to actions, you can see the copy, you can see the visuals. They are obviously testing lots of visuals like you see here, etc. So Mark has already shared the link in the chat, so please take a look at it.
Okay, Laura, I did share, Steph, but Laurens van Geneugen was ahead of me. So thank you, Laurens, for sharing that already.
All right, I'm going to share the slides again. Okay. Now, once you've defined your target audience, you have an idea what the competition is doing, then you have to make your advertisements, of course. And we want to share some tips and tricks, what we've learned over a couple of years of our recruitment campaigns that we've run. And the first one is use authentic pictures. This is a really important one because I know you can find lots of pictures and visuals on the internet, but these are stock images and Facebook will notice that these are not real images of your company. So please take just pictures of the employees that are working at your company, of the office, of an after work, a team event, anything is possible if it's authentic. So you don't have to hire a professional photographer to make them. You can just take them with your mobile, because if people are scrolling on Facebook and Instagram, they only see pictures of their friends also, and these are really authentic pictures. So your advertisement needs to be authentic as well. The second one is use uniform communication. What do I mean by that? Well, you have to put the job function on the advertising. So it's immediately clear what your advertising is about. And here, for example, you see some examples which we've done for our clients. And you see that we always put the logo, the brand of the company on the advertising. And we use the same colors for the function title. And what also is important is Facebook will not only scan your advertising, but it will also take a look at your vacancy website. So if you use pictures and if you use colors, use the same pictures and the same colors on your vacancy page. So this is consistent between the advertising and your vacancy. And then the third one, there are lots of best practices which you can find on the internet of Facebook itself. What we recommend is it can give you some inspiration, but don't take it as a scientific fact, because what we've noticed is that if Facebook, for example, says that video is working better than a picture, well, what we do is we test it. If we have a video and if we have a picture for our client, we just put them both live to see which one is working best. Because what we see is that for some job functions, a picture is working better, but then for other job functions, a video is working better. Or if we do the same advertising for the same job function in another month, in another period of the year, the video is working better, and then the other time the picture is working better. So please test everything. I will come back to that later as well.
Steph, can I just interrupt you before going to the next slide, because there's a good question from Philomena. So her question was, because you mentioned stock images, the question is, what's the impact of using stock images? Will it impact the Facebook algorithm? And maybe if you allow me to answer that so you can have a bit of rest. No, so Facebook will not actually be able to actually see that, whether these are stock images. But the point to be made more was about, we have learned from the past that consumers or visitors will just click less on images or videos that are built from stock images. What you need to take into account is that you're in a channel where people see a lot of pictures of their friends, of their family, so very authentic pictures, very real pictures. If you then show the typical picture of a guy pointing into the future with a helmet on, you all know those kind of real stock images, people will smell that it's not authentic, and they will just continue scrolling. So it's not so much the Facebook algorithm directly, it's more the behavior of Facebook users that will be impacted. And of course, and Steph will explain that later, then further on, that will start impacting the algorithm, because if the Facebook algorithm notices that people are not clicking on your ad, they will show it to less people, right? The second point from Scene is what does having the same colors between a Facebook ad and a vacancy page achieve? Again, I'll reiterate on that. Scene, what is very important is we see a lot of loss. So what you will notice is that the amount of people who click on your advertising is not the same as the people who will land on your page. And why is that? Because people will start already clicking away if the page doesn't load quickly enough. But also, if people don't feel that there's consistency between the advertising and the page they're landing on, they might think that they landed in the wrong place, they might not be interested anymore, and they will click away. So it's really about keeping a consistent user experience about what is happening with the user, so that once they land on your page, they immediately put the link what they clicked on. Good. Okay, the questions are coming in, Steph. The question from Patricia, if I pronounce that correctly, can we see in a Facebook ad library what is the result of other people's campaigns? Back to you on that, Steph.
Unfortunately not. That would be really interesting.
Yes.
But I don't think it's GDPR approved also. But no, unfortunately, you can see all the ads that they are running, but you can't see the results. So you don't know if it's a good ad or a bad ad.
Okay. It's a question from Jack. A very good question actually about what do you think about lead gen forms instead of letting people land on your page? So maybe you can take that question, Steph. Maybe briefly explain what lead gen is, because not maybe everybody in the audience will notice.
All right. So a lead gen form is actually a form that people can fill in once they've clicked on your ad on Facebook itself. So they see your advertisement, they click on it, and then a form opens, a sort of pop-up opens, where they can fill in some questions, for example, first name, last name, and email address. When you use a traffic as an objective, this is a different type of goal from Facebook, then you just, if people click on your advertisement, then they land on your website. And we've done in the past some experiments with lead generation forms. But what we saw is, people do this really often. I mean, it's really easy. People click on it, and Facebook pre-fills also everything. So everything is already pre-filled, and they send the form back to Facebook. But what we see is, they filled in their email address and their first and last name, but they didn't apply. They didn't do the first selection procedure yet. So what we saw is, we've sent them then an email with the chatbot. This is an interactive questionnaire which we sent to, what we use to do the first screening of people that want to apply. And we saw a loss of conversion of people who actually filled in the chatbot over there. So we saw a big loss of people that filled in the lead generation form and people that actually applied with the chatbot.
Yeah.
So we don't recommend this.
I think if I can just reiterate on that, because I'll link it to a question that was from earlier from Matthias. But I think what's important, if you think about conversion, is about thinking about the sweet spot. You don't want to make it too easy for people to apply, because you will get a lot of applicants and you don't know which ones you have to focus on. You don't want to make it too difficult either. So you don't want to ask them to fill in 56 questions and give their national security number. So you have to find a sweet spot in between, right? Which is why we use, for instance, a chatbot to do that with our software. But also one of the downsides of lead gen is that you will actually not know and you will not receive the data of the people who have clicked on that. And that links me back to the question that Matthias asked to give some examples of the data that you need to collect. The big advantage of having people land on your landing page is that you'll be able to track what's happening, right? And Stephanie will talk later about the Facebook Pixel, so I won't go too much in detail about that. But the more things are happening on your website, the more you'll be able to measure how long do people stay, where are they coming from? If they are coming during the day, do they stay longer on the page, or is it the other way around? So all that kind of data, all that kind of analysis, which is very important in order to kind of start iterating and reiterating your campaigns, you will only have that data if they land on your page. So that's another reason why we really strongly advise against lead gen, is because you just lose too much data, and Facebook will have the data, but you won't have it. And actually you want to make sure you have the data so you can start building on it, even when Facebook would change their policies or do something else. Good. All right. I think we've covered most of the questions that were coming in. But please, thank you for all those questions. Please continue, because that really allows us to make this interactive. Good. Back to you, Steph.
All right. Now, what is also important if you're taking pictures, that you think about the dimensions of the pictures. Beforehand, there were lots of options between Messenger, Facebook feed, stories, etc. But now Facebook makes it more easy, but there is still a difference between newsfeed and stories. Stories are, of course, vertical, so you have to think about the pictures that you think also, if you want to use stories, that you take vertical pictures and not horizontally. And then you can also see the video dimensions over here, but I will not go into detail about that. Now, we want to show you as well how we do it in our software. Mark, let's go over to you. But we can't hear you.
Sorry, thank you. I put it on mute, but so you should hear me now. So very briefly to explain to you that, again, the objective of our software is to make it as easy as possible to go live. If you can just click, Steph. Again, let's continue with our barista example. Let's assume you want to find a barista in New York. You just need to click, put the text in there. You'll see the preview on the right-hand side immediately. You'll be able to add pictures because, of course, you want to have your logo in there. You want to have a nice picture so people will stop scrolling and go to your website. Our software will then automatically put that banner on there with the function name. Stephanie explained that's really important to have that on there, so you don't need to kind of do it yourself in Photoshop. You can crop pictures, so you'll know that there's going to be different formats, as Stephanie explained. You can also do that in our software, so you don't have to have a separate image editor to do that. And what's very important, it will make it very easy to upload different pictures and to do A/B testing. I'll wait for the video to finish, but what's going to be really important in defining the success of your campaign, and Steph will explain, is the importance of testing. And here, for instance, you could test a picture, a photo versus an illustration, showing Gunther here, who actually sadly passed away recently. So let's pay our respects to Gunther, the best barista ever, I guess. But that's also what allows you to kind of do that very easily. So I'll let you go back to you, Steph, to explain the importance of A/B testing.
Yes. So you already noticed that we're talking about experimenting, about testing, and we at Simple, we love A/B testing. And what is actually an A/B test? Well, it's actually a sort of experiment, a sort of test that you run, but it is important that you only test one thing, one variable, because otherwise you won't know why something is working better than the other thing. So here, for example, you see two advertisements. The copy is the same, the function title is the same, the call to action is the same, the button is the same, but the only thing that is different is the picture. So this is a really good A/B test, because once you've seen the results, then you will already, you can know why something is working better. It's because of the picture. So let's do a quick poll again, which you can find on the right. We've launched those two pictures, and I want to know which one do you think worked best?
It's oh no, it's not even it's kind of a tight race. Well, the picture on the left wins by about 80 or 70% of people go for the picture on the left.
Okay. All right. So let's see at the results. Well, actually, the picture on the left worked better. You were right, because there were more applications, 22 applications for a cheaper cost. So it is important to test everything, because you can think that the one on the right, on the one on the left will work better. But the Facebook ad algorithm will show you immediately, well, not immediately, after a couple of days, which one works better. And it's also important that it's the one that works better for your target audience, and not what you think at your company that will work better. So this is really important with A/B testing, that you see the results coming in, and that you take decisions based on the results, of course.
Steph, sorry, can I just interrupt, because there's a question on why is the one on the right more expensive? I'll maybe just briefly explain what we call CPA, means cost per application. This means that there were less people actually applying on the one on the right. We've shown it actually to the same audience. We've shown it as many times. Of course, your cost is going to be the same, because you show, for instance, you have 20,000 impressions on each of the pictures, but you have less applications, and therefore your cost per application is increasing. We're not going too deep into the data-driven the ratios and cost per application and how to calculate. We have a separate webinar on that, which is called Data-Driven Recruitment. I will put a link to that later on, also in the chat. Good. Back to you, Steph.
All right. What you can also test on Facebook are videos. Here you can find some examples of our clients, what we've made for our clients. You can also test videos, but then you won't really know why one is working better than the other one, because there are lots of variables that you test, of course, in a video, because it is dynamic kind of creative that you're testing. With videos, it's always important that the first 3 seconds are thumb stopping, because of course people are scrolling on Facebook and Instagram, and you want them to stop scrolling. So your video needs to be really attractive for your audience in the first 3 seconds. All right. Now, once you've done all the preparation work, then of course you need to set it up in Facebook Ads Manager. I will not go live to Facebook Ads Manager because it will take us a bit too long, but I will just show you all the components that you need to take in mind to set up your campaign. The first one is your campaign level. You need to choose over there your objective of the campaign. If you want lots of clicks to your website, then you're going to choose traffic. If you want lots of conversions, lots of applications, then you're going to choose conversion as an objective. But it is important to set it up correctly in Facebook Ads Manager, what you think that a conversion is. It's a technical setup, which I will come back to later on. And then beneath the campaign level, you have the ad set level. There you have to define your audience. You have to select the channels which you want to use, because Facebook has lots of channels, like I already said. It's also Instagram, it's Messenger, it's Stories. And what we recommend is to, if you want to do several channels, then please do this in different ad sets, so you will see which channel is working best for your target audience. And there you also have to define your budgets. And then underneath the ad set level, you have the advertising itself. You have the copy and the visuals. Like I already showed you some of our advertisement videos. About poll is also a good example. So these are things that people will see. So there you have to write copy and upload the pictures. Now, what defines the cost of a Facebook campaign? There are three things to keep in mind. And the first one is, Facebook is, like I already said, a bidding platform. You're bidding against the competition of your target audience. You can choose for a daily budget or a lifetime budget. It's totally up to you. And it is also important to note that you can define a cost cap. So for example, if you say, let's say, okay, I want to pay maximum 20 euros for one application, this is also something you can define in Facebook Ads Manager. But the bidding is something that will definitely define the cost of your advertising. The second one are the estimated action rates. This is a bit of a black box, but if you already have done advertisements in the past, then your cost will be lower than when it's your first recruitment campaign that you are doing. And what is also important is Facebook will also look at the performance of your Facebook page, at the performance of how long does it take to react when someone asks you a question in Messenger. These are all action rates that Facebook keeps in mind to define the costs as well. And then the third one, and this is a really important one, is the user value. Because of course, Facebook wants to have a balance between, first of all, the best user experience for their users, of course. You have to give them value. And then second one, yeah, Facebook also has the opportunity to do advertisement, but it has to give some value to the audience that you want to target. So these are all things to keep in mind that will increase your cost or decrease your cost if you're doing it well. All right, now, how much budget do you need to provide to do recruitment campaigns? That's a question that we receive a lot from our clients and from our prospects. And what we've done at Simple, we've created a financial Facebook formula, which is also called the FFF internally. And there are 3 questions that you need to answer. Mark will also going to send you the link to the financial Facebook formula, so you can have play around with it to see how much budget you need to provide. But the 3 questions are: how many applicants do you actually need, you think, to come to a hire? And then what is the conversion on the vacancy page that you think you're gonna have? What is the conversion rate? Well, here you see an example. For example, if you have 1,250 visitors on your vacancy and you have 50 applications, then you have a conversion rate of 4%. 4% conversion rate is really, really good. But it's also important to keep in mind of the quality, because if you have a conversion rate of 4% and the people that actually apply are totally off target, then of course you're not in with a good conversion rate. And then the third one, what is the conversion of your, or what will the conversion be of your Facebook advertisement, the click-through of your Facebook advertisement? So for example, if you have nice images, if you have a strong brand, if you have really something, it's important to see what's in it for the candidate, because we want people to click on it. And what we see is that people try to define themselves to say like, yeah, we're a nice team and we're like a family, work hard, play hard, etc. All the cliches together. No, you have to think really about, okay, why does someone wants to work with me and not with another company with the same job function. So if you have nice pictures, if you have a nice video, if you're a strong brand, then the conversion of your Facebook ad will be higher than if you use stock images, if it's not really clear, if you don't have a nice package for the candidates, then the conversion rate will be less. So these are 3 questions. Take a look at them after the webinar, so I can still continue and you can still listen to the things that I want to say. All right, and then the final thing, and this is also a really important one, I hope you already noticed, that data is really important. You have to gather lots of data, and you do this through the Facebook pixel. Now, let's launch a next poll maybe to see who already installed the Facebook pixel on their websites.
Yeah, and again, the poll is on the right. So it's you have a tab, you have chat, questions, and then polls. That's where you can see the poll. And we have, yes, so we have about half of the people who are asking what the hell is a Facebook pixel, and only 12% have actually installed it.
Okay.
So there's still some work to do there.
Yes. So I'm going to explain what Facebook Pixel is and why you should install it. I'm not going to explain how you have to install it because it is some technical setup, but I would refer to the white paper that we've written about data-driven recruitment. You can find it on our website. Now, what is a Facebook Pixel? Well, it's actually a piece of code that you have to install on your website, and it will measure all the data points that a visitor takes on your website. It is totally GDPR approved, but of course you have to say it in your privacy, you have to mention it in your privacy policy on your website. Now, why is it important? Well, for recruitment campaigns, there are 3 things that are important. Well, what we think that are important. And the first one is retargeting. If people already came to your vacancy but didn't apply, then you can retarget them with another advertisement through the Facebook pixel. And this is important because people are scrolling on Facebook and Instagram, they click on the advertisement, they think, oh, I don't have time to apply now. So you have to be, you have to be top of mind with your audience so you can retarget them with advertisements. And then the second one is, well, you can track conversions with the Facebook pixel. What we do is, well, when people come to a vacancy, they have to fill in a chatbot, an interactive questionnaire, and then they come to a thank you page. And on that thank you page, the Facebook pixel is fired and it is sent back, the data is sent back to Facebook. So Facebook knows that a conversion, that an application has taken place. Like I already said, it is a bit of technical setup, and it is really, really important that you set it up correctly, because otherwise the results will be totally different, of course.
Steph, if I can just interrupt. Sorry, can I just interrupt because there's 2 questions here. One from Pedro on, do you install it on the website of the company or on your page in Facebook? It's on the website. So ideally on your whole website, but if you can't do that, you should at least put it on your landing pages of your vacancy, but it's on the website of the company. And then a more detailed question from Lawrence: do you see a big difference before and after the iOS update? We're always waiting for that question to come. I also see Steph smiling. Lawrence, that's a very good question. I'll maybe do this, Steph, if you're okay. Now, maybe a short introduction for everybody on the call or in the webinar. Apple introduced iOS 14.5. You might have read about this, which makes it a lot more difficult for companies to actually track what's happening for people kind of surfing through their mobile phones, their iPhones, more particularly. Getting a bit, I don't want to go too technical, but yes, we have seen an impact. But also there are some ways where, again, fully GDPR proof, you can actually start building around that. One of them is called server-side tagging, which we have installed, not for us, but also for our software. So that's also partially solving that problem. The other one is also using the conversion API of Facebook to start using that kind of data set. So yes, we saw a dip after 14.5. We are recovering. And again, this is also one of the examples we gave in the beginning. The more data you have and the more back data you have, which you can use to start learning from, the more easier it will be to tackling the challenges that come in the future. Because this will become more and more an issue. So again, it's going to be really important that you do your setup properly to tackle that. Not sure if you want to add anything to that, Steph.
No, I think that's important. Facebook also talks about the conversion API. This is also a bit of help to track the conversions and to track all the events correctly due to the iOS 14.5 update. But what we did is we installed server-side tagging, and we saw better results.
Yes, you can say that again.
Yes.
But I think, Steph, because we get this question a lot, we might want to do a separate webinar on this one in the future. So let's stay tuned on our socials, and we'll try to announce that once that webinar is ready. Okay, let's continue.
All right. Then there are some other useful tools. I still have to explain build audiences. Through the Facebook Pixel, you can build audiences. And this is really powerful of Facebook, that once you've created a really good audience for your vacancy, then you can broaden it with lookalike audiences. So a lookalike audience is actually a similar audience to your first audience, to your custom audience that you created, but it's just to broaden your audience. And this is really the power of Facebook. And thanks to the Facebook Pixel, you can easily build audiences with that. So if you're not already done recruitment campaigns, then I would really recommend to already install the Facebook Pixel now, because you can already gather data of people that come to your website. All right, next to the Facebook Pixel, there are some other useful tools which I want to share with you, which are useful to use when doing recruitment campaigns on Facebook. And the first one is Google Analytics. Google Analytics is also a piece of code that you have to install on your website. And you receive then all the data that a visitor takes on your website itself. So which pages do they visit? How long do they stay on a specific page? On which elements on your website do they click? It's really useful to see what a visitor does on your website. The second one is Google Tag Manager. Google Tag Manager is also from Google. I think that's obvious. All these tools are also for free, so please take a look at them after the webinar. And Google Tag Manager is actually an easy way to install your Facebook Pixel, to install the Google Analytics, but also to install the specific conversions, the specific goals that you want to reach with your campaigns. And then the last one is Google Data Studio. Google Data Studio is a platform where you collect all the data from the different sources, so Google Analytics, but also Facebook, maybe also LinkedIn, and you can make customized dashboards, some really nice graphics, some really nice graphs to show all the data in a nice way for your clients or for yourself. All right, so I know it's a lot to install and it's really a technical setup. It is difficult when it's your first time, but what we've done at Simple is we created a software which Mark already showed you during the presentation, where you don't have to install a Facebook Pixel, you don't have to have a Facebook page, you don't have to have a website either, but you can still run Facebook campaigns for your vacancy. And Mark, maybe you can go live to our software.
I'll very briefly show this to you because I think it's quite interesting also to understand for yourself how you can do a setup of a campaign. So what our software will do is basically build a checklist. And I'm going to stick with the barista example. So we've already done the targeting. You can also start building your advertising. We've shown that to you. This is actually our new and improved ad builder. You can build your landing page. So as Stephanie mentioned, you don't even need to have a website because the landing page, which will be very quick, which will be mobile friendly, which will also track what's happening, is going to be on there. You can build a chatbot by asking the questions that you want the chatbot to ask. And very importantly, you can also manage your candidates in here. So this looks like a Trello board, but every candidate which will apply for the barista function, and you see we have some candidates already, you'll be able to actually see the answers they gave on the chatbot. You'll be able to make notes about the candidates. And then once you know what you want to do with a candidate, you can just drag them to the right category. And based on this, our software will also start learning what candidates you like, where they're coming from, and it will start adapting automatically. You can actually all track this. You can see the budget that was spent. It will start putting the right ads live. It will start putting some ads on a different audience. So all of that will be done completely automatically within our software. And what's important is that also, and I'll share that link, you'll see on the bottom left here, a link to the Academy. That's where you find all our know-how and our data, the webinars, the white papers that we mentioned. So I'll put those, put a link to the free trial in the ad. So you can also start looking at that content over there. Oh no, you've done it already.
Yes, I already
You were way ahead of me. Okay, I'll transfer the screen back to you, Steph.
Yes. Let's see. I'm just going to share again. There you go.
In the meantime, again, people, if you have questions, don't hesitate.
All right. So here you can also see that, well, we're constantly A/B testing. You don't have to think about setting up everything technically correctly. You don't have to think about budgeting. Everything is done automatically through our simple algorithm. So if you still have some
We
questions,
could not make this easier. We tried, but it's impossible to make it even easier.
That's true. So if you still have some more questions, please ask them now so we can still answer them. We still have some couple of minutes. I also want to say that we're going to send you an email with the recordings of this webinar, so you can take a look at it. Again, you will also receive the link to our software, and if you set up a recruitment campaign before next Tuesday, then we're going to add €50 media budget of Simple for your first recruitment campaign.
We are too kind for people. There's some questions coming in. So first question from Pedro is asking, because he's an independent recruiter, where he can manage everything on his own without using the official website. Yes, Pedro, that's exactly the advantage of our software. You don't need any of the link to another website. Everything is done within our software, the campaign management, but also the landing pages. Everything is done in our software. The cost, Patricia, is €349 per month, and then you can run 10 campaigns simultaneously at the same time. And you get a 2-week free trial. So please try that if you're interested. There's a question from Lorraine. Are influencers an added value to help increase applicants? Steph, not sure if you want to take that question.
Yes. We're not really a big fan of influencers. Why? Because you can't measure the results. If an influencer talks about your vacancy or publishes your advertisement or your post or whatever about your vacancy, then you can't measure how many applicants come from that specific vacancy, that specific post of the influencer. Like I said, we love data because we want to make the best performing campaigns ever for recruiting. So, and if we can't measure the results, then we're not really a big fan of it.
Okay, there's two questions I will combine. It's basically asking whether Instagram is the better format, and whether Instagram is more popular. So how would we rate Instagram versus Facebook, Steph?
Yeah, well, interesting question, because sometimes we see in campaigns that Instagram is working better than Facebook. But it's not always the case. So what we do is once we start a new campaign for a client, then we make different ad sets with the different placements. So we make the same advertising for the same audience, but on a different placement. So one for Instagram and one for Facebook. So we can measure the results and see where your target audience is, because it's always different. So I can't say like Instagram is working better than Facebook, or Facebook is working better than Instagram.
I think it's going to be useful, and that's also the power of Facebook as a platform to do both. I think apart from the format, and obviously we've experimented with stories, which is very particular to Instagram. I think you can do a good test by just using the same material in the right format at the very start. There's a question from Bart on what would be an average budget for recruitment ads. I mean, obviously you can start calculating yourself, but I think as a rule of thumb, we say you need to be willing to spend 50 euros per day. Let's say 40 to 50 euros per day on a campaign, and let's let it run for at least 10 days. So I think, if you don't have a budget of 400 to 500 euros to at least test for a vacancy on whether this is the right approach for you, I wouldn't start spending too much time and too much effort in it. Because if you're saying, well, my budget is 150 euros, it's not going to be worth the effort or doing the setup on doing everything, because the return will probably be too small. And then question from Milena, I'll give that to you, Steph. Are there any other social media platforms that you recommend for recruiting besides LinkedIn? We have quick news there. Yes. So I'll let you take that question, Steph.
Very nice question. Well, we started experimenting with TikTok. We've done it now for 2 of our clients, and we're actually quite impressed by the results. The results are looking good. But we're still experimenting which objective we need to choose, which audience, because it's the first time that we're doing recruitment campaigns on TikTok. But the results are looking really well, actually.
There's a question from Elena. Will there be a webinar on TikTok? I think we'll say yes to that.
Yes, definitely.
So stay tuned, but we just need to collect a bit more data, because we like to kind of not just start blabbing about, but actually show you some real results of real campaigns on that. This question from Joelle on when is the webinar about free organic advertising that we talked about in the beginning. I have some bad news for you, Joelle. And maybe there's a miscommunication there, but it's impossible to do recruitment with free and organic advertising. Just to put a number on there, because people talk about followers and the number of likes they have on their webpage, we call those vanity metrics, right? Because if you put something on your wall, maximum 3% of your followers will actually see that. Facebook is very clear on that. They have an advertising-based model. They will not allow you to kind of be effective with just organic traffic. Content and stuff like that is something else. But we have tried this for recruitment. It's not possible. So if you're really serious, that's why we put it in the beginning. If you want to use Facebook and Instagram for recruitment, you have to be willing to spend money on that. Question from Lorraine. How do I stay up to date for future webinars? I think we'll come back, follow our socials. That I think that's the next slide, no?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah.
Details.
Mhm.
But there's another question. Okay, so there's a question from Philomena on how do we do recruitment adverts on TikTok? Do we catch the candidates or do we find the audience you want? I have to be very honest, we're experimenting on that at this very moment. So we started, I think, 2 weeks ago, Steph.
Yeah. Mhm.
We are collecting data. We are doing many A/B testing, many experiments. So I would just advise you to connect with us, to connect with Simple, and to track our socials. And then we'll let you know once we have enough data for the webinar. Okay, I think I'll just launch a poll maybe because we have a question on what our next webinar should be about and what you think about. I'll publish those.
We should actually put in TikTok there as well. As
Exactly.
an option.
Yes. I've been saying that for 2 weeks now. I'm just kidding. Okay. Well, 100% of people think this webinar was useful. It's also
Wow.
because only one person answered. I'm just kidding. But okay, I'll let you wrap up, Steph.
All right. If you still have some more questions in the next couple of days, in the next couple of weeks, please don't hesitate to send us an email or connect to us on LinkedIn, send us a private message. We're really happy to help because we do believe that online recruitment on Facebook and Instagram just works for vacancies. And please keep an eye on our LinkedIn Simple page. There you can find new webinars, new white papers that we write, but also take a look in our software because there you can find all our resources, which we've already written, which we've already done in the past in the Simple Academy tab. All right. Still some more questions or?
No, there's just people thanking me specifically because I was so eloquent in answering the questions. I think that's clear that the thank yous are clearly posted for me. No, Steph, you've done a brilliant job and thank you for, well, I think congratulations on the first remote webinar that we've given here.
You too, Mark. All right. Thanks for joining us, and I hope to see you again in the future. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.